All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, Doug, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
What's going on?
What's going on?
How's your Leafs duo continuing to rock and roll?
Man, they look good. Man, Joseph Wall was good last night. I like where the Leafs are at.
After a bonkers start. That's
Yes.
what I like. Noodles, that was one of the weirdest goals I've ever seen.
I talked to Hayes earlier today. I loved Joseph Wall's game last night. Like there was a couple key moments where I don't know. I think it was just kind of it was kind of a I don't know how you felt. Kind of a dead game. Like there wasn't much going
for
two periods. And
game.
I want to read a text I got from an assistant coach in the league, and he called it, or we both kind of called it, but he called it. But anyways, getting back to Joseph Wall, it was a bonkers goal. He can't find it, and then I thought, okay, like if that gives Nashville some legs. Let's see if he can bounce back. And it went the other way. He just had this like calmness and cool about it. There was about three saves that I was like watching. I was like, these are like significant, like perfect.
He's in his
positioning.
zone right now.
Yeah,
like he is just simply in his zone. Joseph Wall. There's no other way to really put it, man. Look at his numbers, how confident he looks. He is completely dialed in.
He was unbelievable. I thought he made a right shoulder save on the power play. I think that was on Forsberg, or a right-handed shot. I think it was Forsberg or Marcia. So I made that left pad save in the third period. Like he just was dialed in. And if you look at how quiet he was in the net, like just pucks hit him, die. Like nothing going on here. Like Stolarz, like I was raving about Stolarz the other day and how quiet he is in the net and how he's using his size, and there's just not much. Wall's got that, and it's nice to have every night. Like I don't know if you guys looked at the analytics, but like I think Nashville had to push in the third period, but it was like they gave up 12 high danger chances total in the game, and I think a lot of them probably were in the third.
The Maple Leafs, you're saying?
Yes, I'm sorry, the Maple Leafs. So Nashville had 12 good looks.
I could not count 12 right now if you gave me an opportunity. I don't remember the Preds ever feeling overly threatening last night.
Man, there's something else. What they do is they play good. They play good enough to lose, is what they do. They're
a very unimpressive team with names that you're aware of. Like Yossi's a superstar, and obviously Stamkos and Marchessault, and he scored that weird goal last night. And they just kind of blend together as a unit.
And it's like I get it. The legacy players there, you give the Trotzy was explaining legacy guys, been around a team a long time. A couple of those guys show up, but there's just no jam. There's they had nothing. It was a powder. They were a powder puff.
Hit. It was a no hitter kind of too. Like it was it was a weird. Like I got to find this text because I laughed because the guy even wrote me back like 3 minutes into the.
But what did he say? That the Leafs are going to come alive in the third and basically take over?
Yeah, but he said he goes, Chief is like. Chief is going to say something. I got to find it because I should have prepared. But he said, Chief is going to point out a couple things. Like he said, they're skating into their sticks. Like there was some technical stuff, skating into their sticks. There's no chip and chase, not making that team turn, not doing anything, not pushing the pace, anything. And I wrote back. I said, well, watch, they'll turn it up and. The comment was they really haven't pissed a drop. That was kind of the old school chat, whatever this guy said. And I said, watch in the third. They'll turn it up and push away in this game. And about 3 minutes in, he wrote back, and he's like, yep, you see exactly, bang on
well,
what they did.
Well, they put Matthews and Marner together, and, Matthews, this is the combination that the Leafs are playing with right now. They're second in the league in goals against, which is completely uncharted territory for this organization.
Did you say against?
I'm saying they have given up the second least amount of goals, or I guess goals per game allowed, in the NHL. They're second in that category. That is
my Jennings thing might be a reality. You never know.
Yeah, I mean that's in large part a team stat. And again, this is completely uncharted territory for the organization, not the Matthews Marner era, not this century. I'm talking in their history. They are never in the top five. It just doesn't happen, and that's where they are right now through 25 games. So you have team defense You have two goaltenders who are playing phenomenally well. Joseph Wall's won 6 in a row. He's a .935 save percentage through that stretch. I'm not sure there's a hotter goalie in the league. Maybe Philip Gustafson. Maybe you can come up with a couple, but Joseph Wall is legitimately in the running for like star of the week every single week the way he's playing. And then if you marry that with the core four philosophy, which is give Matthews some time and space, give Marner some time and space, give Nylander some time and space, and the opposition's in trouble. Look what happened last night. Like It goes Matthews, Willie, turn the lights off, see you later. That's a pretty good formula.
It is a good formula. And I think the way they approach the game now, it allows them not to get buried in a sleepy game like that. Because it seems like in the past there was always like a sleepy game. At the end of the game, they're like, yeah, we could get nothing cooking. But I was begging the coach, and it's one of the things that he does that sometimes, and it flipped last night, the fourth line is not doing anything. They're NHL players. They got jerseys. They got everything, but they don't do anything. And in a game like that, it's almost like they're just space fillers where they're not creating, and it's killing momentum. And it's all you mentioned the word, you used the phrase a lot, Hayes, blending into the game. It's like when they're constantly going over the boards, and I do understand some nights they can create energy, and Ryan Reeves could fight a guy, and all that stuff is great. But sometimes you got to create a spark and shorten your bench and get your best players at a different cadence on the ice. Because if it's just 4 lines, 30-second shifts, and then, we lost 1-0 or 2-0, guys. Like, sometimes you just got to switch it up to create a spark, and it was a brilliant job last night because that's what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And the Matthews-Marner conversation and whether or not they should play together has been on and off for 9 years. We're into our 9th season. It's like Grey's Anatomy. Like, are these two going to date? Are they ever going to get back together? It's just like an ongoing, constant conversation. And when Matthews returned, he started with Willie, and Marner was on his own line. And I would guess after what we saw in the third last night, likely tomorrow those two will be reunited. And they're going to hope that what we saw last night is what we'll continue to see in the future, because Mitch Marner is absolutely on fire right now. The way he's performing, the way he is playmaking, what he's seeing all over the ice. He had 3 points last night. Guy's up to 35 on the season. He's 5th in the league in points. He's 5th in the league in points. And Matthews now starting to look like maybe the whole German trip, something came out of that. I don't know what happened over there.
Obviously. I mean,
but he looks pretty good. And if he starts ripping home goals, and that's 3 in his last 2 games, obviously this team is going to look and feel a lot more like what we saw in the past. And I think what Berube is likely going to try and continue to push forward is do not cheat defensively. Like, if you're racking up points and everyone's feeling good and Matthews is scoring and Marner's in the league, like league chase for Art Ross and Willie's putting up points, awesome. But you still got to bring the whole complete package, right? And everyone else has still got to buy into whatever program they're selling. Because, again, I think what is the biggest difference with this team is the fact that they're not giving up anything. Like, and a lot of that's the goalies are playing so well. But, again, the stats are right there. They've played 25 games. They're not giving up goals. Like, they're defending very well.
Yeah, but I think the one thing that I've noticed, in this last, we'll call it stretch of 11 games, even more, but what they've built here is they take what you, like, they're not forcing things. They take what the other team gives. Like, the first 2 periods was kind of a snooze fest, but you knew at some point, okay, if they're going to get a little bit open ice, they'll find it and they'll execute. And that's what happened. It was like create a little bit of ice, execute, and now all of a sudden Nashville's back on their heels and execute again. Like, it was opportunistic. And I think you're bang on when you say in past years maybe Nashville just finds a way to win that 2-1, 1-0. Saros shuts the door.
It was like they would stand around and say, how come we don't have 4 goals yet? And then now we don't have 4 goals, so let's do something stupid here or cheat to find it. Mm-hmm. And then you just lose the game 3-1. And then you go after the game, you're like, our execution wasn't good, and blah, 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 and you move on to the next one. Like, that's what it would have been.
Yeah, that is.
But in a way, I almost I somehow find it frustrating where it's like you've had these gifted goal scorers. Like, how the idea of not paying attention to goaltending and defense in the past has not been, like, a priority. It's scary stuff.
It is a little bit strange. And again, I think the role that Chris Tanev has been playing on this team, it is so impactful, and it doesn't scream at you if you're just watching the game flow.
No.
There's no highlight reel stuff. It's just it's almost like a military type of approach where it's the same thing every shift, and it's so effective.
But it's like a bouncer that doesn't have to yell and scream. He just taps people on the shoulder and says, "You need to get out of here."
And everyone knows they better scatter quick.
But
you better get out of here quickly.
Yeah, he's able to pour cold water on something that might have been a fire. Like that's in previous years. There's probably guys that are miscast, and you're, hey, Liljegren, you're going to be able to stop that cycle. Hey, TJ Brody near the end, obviously Brody didn't have a great season last year. Brody was brought in to do that, and early on was doing that, but again, by the end, was not playing where he probably should in the lineup. These guys are slotted properly, so you start on the cycle, maybe something gets going, and Tanev's like, no, he had a play 2 games ago where it was a seam play back door, and it probably goes in on a one-timer, and he just put his stick there. It's like, I know what you're thinking. You're gonna try and hit this back door. I've got it. Like, to me, he reads plays ahead of how they're going to. That's just caginess, how they're going to happen. Right. And to me, that's where, if they do get in a little bit of a fire drill in their own zone, like, he knows what to do. Hey, let's shrink the zone. Let's do what we do. And it's not just him. Ekman Larson's been through the rodeo.
He's been very effective.
Riley looks quieter in his game. Like, it just, to me, everyone kind of seemed to be comfortable in their own skin. And regardless of how the game looks, they're like, okay, if this is how it's going to be tonight, we'll find a way to win this way. And that's, I think, being able to adapt to what you're being given that particular night is a real, that's a tribute to how well you can play.
Well, how good of a team you are. And again, this is still without a number of players who are injured. And like McCabe didn't play. He's not playing tomorrow. Domi's still out. Pacioretty's out. Camp is out. And we've been talking a lot about the opportunity of these guys. And Fraser Minten last night was, by the third period, playing top 6 minutes. And they shifted him to the wing, and he looked comfortable. And I think what Craig Berube had to say about him today is another example of the way Berube applies himself to the market and is not affected by anything. Where I was just like, we'll play the clip here in a minute. And I was doing a little role play earlier. I'm like, how would Sheldon Keefe have answered this? Because Sheldon was very aware of the bright lights of the city, very aware of being in lockstep with management, especially when Kyle was the GM. When it was Dubas and Keefe, it always felt like they were both kind of filtering through each other, like how they wanted to approach it, what the messaging was going to be. And I think Keefe would have been very careful. Again, there's nothing wrong with that at all, and I understand why that would have been his approach. But I think considering the waivers, considering the vets, considering cap restraints, considering the GM's opinion on stuff, I think Keefe would probably answer this question about Fraser Minten differently. Probably say, well, we'll see what happens. That's up to Kyle. That's not for me to answer. Here's what Craig Berube had to say about Fraser Minten and what happens with him when guys return from injury.
He's a competitive guy, and he wants to be up here playing, and he does whatever he has to do. Like I said, he finished the game with 7 hits last night, 5 shots. He's competitive.
He would be the automatic guy to send down, given he doesn't need waivers, but is he making that more difficult if you guys are all healthy? Or?
No, definitely. If he can help us, I want him here. That's how I look at it. He's the type of player that we like.
Does having
a lot.
Trees going no,
exactly. But you know what I'm saying? Like, Sheldon would have been like, listen, that's up for Kyle. Again, nothing. I'm not taking a shot at Sheldon.
I don't deal with those technical things.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into this, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Berube's like, I want him here. Like, if he's helping, I want him.
I like when he threw in, I like him a lot.
I like him a lot. Well, what did he reference first? 7 hits. 7 hits. Not nice pass. How did he fit with Willie and Tavares? And
beyond all that, you know what I like about him? I like his big frame, and he's got an advantage where he can watch 34 on a daily basis, what his habits are, how he moves around the ice. But I watch that and I go, well, you can't lose the puck there. Oh, you lost it again there. You're just like Alex Nylander. He came up and was like, oh, flash and dash. And then it was like, you lost the puck battle there. You gave it away there. You just gave up a 2-on-1 with a 1-goal lead. and now he's not going to be playing anymore.
With
this kid, it seems like he's responsible. He gets it. He's gonna screw up. Everybody screws up, but he seems like for a young kid, he's playing a man's game out there, which I'm sure Craig Berube absolutely loves.
Absolutely.
I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, I like the kid. I like what he brings to the table.
No, listen, I'm with you, man. I've been very impressed by him, and this is a veteran team that's a wagon right now. Like they're winning every night. They're putting up a lot of points. They're very businesslike, and Craig Berube is their coach. Like I think if you're a kid or you look out of place, it would really stick out with this team right now. And it's difficult to look and feel mature beyond your age and beyond your experience, but I think Fraser Minten has managed to pull that off. And I credit him, and I think it's in his best interest if he wants to stay with the team. That's what he has to do, because he's likely going to move around the lineup. And how's he going to react to it? Is he going to play center? Maybe he plays the wing. That's another thing. Like, oh, you can speak to this. You were a center. I'm sure when you got up, they were like, you might have to play the wing. Okay, I'm playing the wing. Like, what are you going to say? No, I'm a centerman. Play wherever you got to play.
I'm sure if management was talking to Craig Berube and they were saying, would you rather Fraser Minten like on a left wing situation, possibly playing a little bit of center, flip-flopping on a third line, or would you rather Nick Robertson out there? What do you think he would say?
Well, I think we know the answer to that.
Well, exactly. So that's what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
But that's what, Minton's a smart player, and he identifies what he needs to do. And it's not that he plays safe, he just plays smart. And the one thing, you're talking about, like, Alex Nylander, hey, he didn't get it out there, and that it's tough because as a young guy, it's almost like one mistake, and it's like there's a magnifying glass. Like,
yep.
Willie can turn the puck over. John, Mitch trying something and it doesn't work. So what? Like, he's going to be right back out there. We know what they're capable of. When you're a young guy trying to make an impression on a coach and a team that's really already established, and there's one or two spots, available right now until people come back, every little play is under the microscope. So you're almost better having a night where it's quiet, but boy, you're impactful in certain things. And Minten, like you say, 7 hits, but Chief did say 5 shots on goal. Like, he was very noticeable.
He was effective last night.
Very noticeable.
There was a reason he was getting put on the ice.
Yeah. Yes. I love how in this market there's always like an attachment. They're like, Fraser Minten is great. He's committed. His work ethic has been compared to John Tavares. I was like, why can't he just be like a hard-working dude? So I think it was Masters in his little report. People are saying he works as hard as John Tavares. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, you got to have a comparison there.
Yeah. I will say that's not a bad, John Tavares is known as I felt bad.
Jamie, it's going to be followed up tomorrow with Fraser. What do you like about John Tavares' work ethic?
I know, but that's Masters and he's doing his thing. But I thought it ended 4-2. Like, Tavares, that's the fastest I've seen him skate.
He was skating so fast for that empty netter.
Dude, and you want to talk about old man strength on that. Did that goal count?
No, it didn't. He missed it by a millisecond.
I thought it was 4-2, and then I looked at it was 3-2. I'm like, oh my God, he missed.
He just missed it.
He I don't know who he was chasing. He would have thrown that guy over the boards.
That was a stick battle. Or you're right, it was a piece of lumber, and he was like, I am winning this battle.
Yes.
And I think I don't remember who it was. I think it was a right shot. It might have been
Marshall.
Right
shot defensive.
I think it was Marshall. So
or
he
Carrier,
was probably
one of those two. Yeah.
He was probably like, the game's over. What am I don't need to fight you for the puck. Like, I'm aware of where the clock is and the game's over. But it was also would have given Marner 4 points last night. 4 assists. Like, he was the one that flipped it up to him. And I think more so than Tavares battling for the goal, I'm sure the idea of 4 points for Mitch Marner would have been something he would have been intrigued by. And again, you look at where the NHL stats are right now. The Leafs, they are now 5th in the league in points. They have 34 points. They have some games in hand on the teams ahead of them, like Winnipeg, like Vegas. Washington's in here tomorrow night. Washington playing in Montreal tonight, so the Leafs should have an advantage when it comes to that game tomorrow. And then Marner is 5th in points, and he's only 3 points behind the leaders, and that's Kaprizov and Nichas and McKinnon. So you got a couple of races here. It's early in the season, but Marner's in the hunt. Marner's in an Art Ross hunt right now, and the Leafs are in a President's Trophy hunt. And I'm not sure what value you place on that on December 4th or 5th. Or
Dude, honestly, it's deja vu. Us having this chat right now is deja vu at this time of year. Leafs are humming, everything's rosy, and I feel like we've done it before, man. Like, I was watching Mitch Marner play last night, and I'm like, how on earth do you not re-sign that guy? Like, how do you who doesn't want that guy around for the next however many years? But there's also the other side of it. Performance in the playoffs. Like, why, if they all don't get it done in the playoffs, why do you want to keep the same group of guys together? It's not necessary.
That's what's always conflicting, and that's what makes it so
But
polarizing.
I was watching him. I'm like, this guy's got the crowd on his feet, and he's electrifying. And you ask yourself, like, how could you stay away from not paying that guy big money and long term? But there's another side to it.
What about him kind of getting in the scrum late in the third there last night?
Oh my God! Can we cut the crap with the scrum?
You don't think there's value in a Mitch Marner-led scrum? You don't see value in that. Who did he?
I don't know why that
Danny LaRue he was going after.
Yeah,
last
LaRue
night?
or whatever. Yeah,
Danny LaRue.
Listen, you know what I will
better than
respect
nothing.
and like
I'll
about
take it.
Exactly. Because if he would have turned and skated away, that's what people notice. I will take that he goes in there. I don't know if you want to punch and trade punches and stuff, but I'll take the fact that he's standing there supporting his teammate. Like, I like that because
I'll take it too. I just thought it was a standard thing where
week.
you just don't skate by and act like nothing's gone.
But it hasn't been standard for their big boys.
But
You're right.
what I mean.
Since they got in the league.
I love that because what do we talk about? We had Sam Rosen and who was Steve Valaket and people with the Rangers talking about, hey, scrums and guys skating away and not being the pack of wolves mentality. You don't have to go looking for it, but you could certainly support. And I like that. And I don't know if it was a pop at Wall or whatever. There was,
it was the kid Zachary LaRue. Like, he's a young kid. He
jousting away.
He jousted at him. Like, he gave Wall a pretty good shot. And then I think he turned around and kind of pushed Marner back. And that's where Marner, I don't know if this is going to continue through the year, but I think he probably would have skated away last year or in previous years. And this year he said, screw it, man. I'm a vet in this league. I don't know who you are. I'm sure that's what he's thinking. And I'm not going to let you punch me in my building, nor should he.
Wow.
You got to fight back. And I think that's an important type of pack mentality cliche, but you have to show it. You can't just talk about it. And there's an example of it last night.
That's exactly it. Because even if again, this is just, but if Craig Berube's behind the bench and goes, you know what, that guy's there for it. It's just a small layer. Just adds a percentage to like what the coach has been trying to, talk from day one. It seems like they're all business. They want to play a certain way. Early on, it looked like, hey, they were going to play straight line, chip and chase, but there's some freedom for some skill players to do things. Like, now pack mentality, like it's just a layer where you buy into either what the coach is selling or maybe just, hey, we feel pretty good about ourselves in the room and we're just going to stand up for each other. I don't know what that thought process is.
Listen, conventional wisdom also would say, you learn this when you're in like novice, is someone hits your goalie, you react to it. It's not
anything. If they blow snow on the goalie,
right? It's a matter of it's almost a mandatory move. Whoever it happens to be that is the closest guy. Last night it was Mitch, and I give him credit. He followed through on that. All right, Jim Nill's coming up of the Dallas Stars, but also a part of the management team for Canada at the Four Nations Face-Off. So we'll get into a number of things from yesterday, and I have a list today on Thursday. Hazy B's list, the 5 players not on the Four Nations face-off that I think could be on the Olympic team next year for Canada.
Nice.
All right, so 5 snubs that still have a chance of making it next year. And honestly, there's a long, long list of players. I have an honorable mention list.
Is this only Canada?
This is only Canada. I have 5 Canadian players that are not on this team that I think could be on the team next year.
Nice.
So we'll get to that. We've got Luke coming up. What a Thursday nighter tonight. Lions, Packers. Last time I checked on FanDuel, I believe Doogie can confirm this. It's still Lions minus 3.5. It's a pretty substantial line. Lions 3.5 in Detroit against Green Bay. A lot of injuries for Detroit. So we'll catch up with Luke. We'll get his take on this game and more coming up throughout the afternoon. Pierre LeBrun on the show as well today. And the winter meetings in baseball starting on Monday. It sounds like Juan Soto will make a call in the next 48 to 72 hours. Where is Juan Soto going to go? And if he doesn't come up here, what are the Jays going to do? We got to get some answers on that.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. I've also got a putter grip to announce that will shock the world.
Mark Stones.
I know what you mean, and I can't believe it. I saw it today, and I'm shocked. I'm stunned by it.
Yeah.
We'll get into it. We got a lot of things to get into today, a lot of things. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Jim Nill coming up of the Dallas Stars and the Team Canada front office for the Four Nations face-off. I've got my list. It's Thursday. Hayesy be listing coming up, and Luke Wilson in about an hour. There's a lot going on in the sports world, including we're waiting for baseball to blow up. Like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So the Soto news is going to break at some point, and then all hell's going to break loose from there. Where's everyone else going? Who else is available? What's the money going to be? And some of the numbers you see. I saw Ken Rosenthal float out 15 years, $750 million for Soto.
I'm not giving him that, man. I'm sorry. I'm not.
It's
I don't
crazy money.
Generational hitting talent, fine, but he's not Ohtani, man. I don't. He ain't Ohtani.
No, he's a great player. He's a great player. But yes, he doesn't move the needle like that too. There's a marketing component that comes with everyone you sign. Ohtani is a completely different beast. He's a unicorn in pro sports.
Yeah.
This guy is not.
And that was a year ago, and this guy's already surpassing that by 150 sheets? No way. I'm not giving it to him.
I'll believe it when I see it, too. I'm not convinced it gets that high at all. But Steve Phillips will join us. A little primer on the winter meetings that'll begin next week. And where do the Jays go from here? Like, what are they going to do? You know, we hear all these rumors. They're in on everyone. They're uber aggressive. They've got money. Okay,
they got to have a win, man. They've got to have a win.
Have to have a win. Soto or otherwise, you got to find a way to win here this offseason.
Yeah.
We'll get to that a little bit later on. There's some basketball news, too. You see the WNBA team here, the Toronto Tempo. They're going with the name the Toronto Tempo. I like that name. I like that they didn't pick some random moose or the grizzly bears or something. Like, give me a lifestyle name. I like Tempo. I like that handle.
I like it, too. It's catchy.
Yeah, I can deal with Toronto Tempo. There's a little bit of alliteration there. I will say the logo, as many people have pointed out, it's got a New Balance 5, man. It's got a really New Balance 5.
I'm always shocked by something like that. I'm not going to start pissing on their but it's like all these people involved to pump this up, and you came up with that logo. Like, come on, man. It's a cool name. Get a better logo.
Yeah, you can't have that logo.
That's
man.
New Balance. That's a New Balance.
That's New Balance
for sure.
That's cool.
That looks like a business card of a guy that sells pencils or something, where it's like, hey, Rick, give me a call.
I'm Rick at Toronto Tempo.
Yeah, the Tempo.
Come on,
I do the shirts and T-shirts for the Tempo. Give me a call, Rick.
I love the name. I love the name. I agree. The logo's it is a New Balance feel.
Yeah,
it does have a New Balance feel.
It does. Although New Balance, they signed Ohtani, right? They got Ohtani. Yeah. They have Kawhi. Who else do they have? I'm trying to remember. They have someone in the NFL. I can't. We'll look that up, Doogie. But I kind of think that Tempo. Maybe they're telling us New Balance is going to be like a title sponsor or something like that. You know, New Balance is going to be heavily affiliated with the Toronto WNBA team. But I love Tempo. I love that handle. Yeah. But something's got to give on Rick's business card. Something's got to give there. All right, so I'm going to get to my list. Maybe I'll do it at 5 as we. I don't know if I want to do it right before Jim Nill.
I got a question for Jim Nill.
I could do that.
I mean, what is the trophy? Who wins? What does this look like?
I'm not sure anyone has any idea what they're
That's
actually
what I mean. Like,
playing
so
for.
Whoever wins, it's not a gold medal. It's a Four Nations face-off. Like, is it? We should create. What do we think the trophy's going to look like? Like,
I'm not sure.
Is it a face? Is the face-off like a half a face? Is it the Tempo
Nick
logo
Cage
with
and John Travolta?
Yeah,
from
that's
the
what
movie
I mean.
Face Off.
It just. What is the trophy? They're going to skate around
be.
like holding up. What is it going to be?
Have you guys remember that movie? How stupid that was! The dumbest movie concept. You talk about a logo.
That was kind of cool.
Dude,
I kind of liked
they
it.
literally took the guy's face and then said, "You're that guy now."
I know, but the guy was like wheeling the guy's girlfriend.
The whole thing, like Travolta's Nick Cage, he's blowing darts, and he's, it's like, wait a minute, no one picked up on this, that's not actually the guy anymore. Just and the medical abilities of 1998 were that you could literally turn that guy into the other guy.
I know,
like the concept of the movie. It's so stupid. It's not a bad movie. Like, it's not.
No.
Travolta and Nick Cage are pretty good in it. It's a kind of a thriller.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
nobody looked at that and said, that's not the guy. Like, that's his face, but that's not him.
Yeah,
Come
I
on.
feel like in today's world, stuff like that could happen with the technology we see,
That's
and AI
what's
and
coming now,
robots and
man.
all of that.
That's
But
what's coming.
Back then, though, remember he had the voice everything. Like, it was the voice and everything.
Well,
I thought that
the
movie was
original,
pretty
like,
cool.
Mission Impossibles, that was a big thing, right? He'd have the face on, he'd
Pull
rip
the
the
face,
face
yeah.
off.
Yeah.
And like John Voight at the end of the first one, where he's pretending to be John Voight, and it's actually not him. I think the final Mission Impossible is coming out soon. I think they're coming out with their 7th or 8th installment, and I think Tom Cruise said that'll be it. But
He's had a good run.
I think those movies are phenomenal. Like, I don't think they miss. I would put that whole, what do they call it?
Like series type of
Yeah.
thing. Like, you
Yeah.
know, it's not even a trilogy. It's
The
like
whole
a
franchise. That's it.
franchise,
JP's on
yeah.
it. The whole franchise up against any other.
James
like-
Bond's even.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
I
James
love the
Bond.
Bonds, but over the
Bonds are
years,
solid.
because like nowadays, like people like, you know, the Bond from years ago or the recent one, and like
Right.
even,
There's only one Tom Cruise. Ethan
Right,
Hunt.
that's
It's been
true.
the same guy throughout it all. All right. So I'll get to. Why don't I do my list a little bit later in the hour? But you referenced this is such a specific thing to a specific sport.
right.
Because I know what you're about to tell us. Scottie Scheffler just put forth one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen an individual have in pro sports. Truly one of the greats ever. Winning the Masters, he won every major tournament, every elevated event, player of the year, everything across the board.
Right.
And this guy shows up in the Bahamas, and they're playing today.
And he showed up and started rolling the rock with a saw claw grip, which is usually used for guys that get the yips and they can't control their right hand. And I don't know what the hell happened to this dude. Maybe he went back to Dallas and started just jacking 4-foot putts all over the place. And he said he had an emergency call to his coach, and he said, "I need the claw, I need the saw, and I got to go with it."
I don't think you can
I
be the
thought it
number
was
one
a
player
joke.
in the world. I don't think you can be putting like that. I honestly think he should immediately lose world ranking points. You cannot putt like Gary on a Sunday.
I think it's right up there with old Lumpy Heron grabbing the ball with the top of his putter, the suction thing. Look at this.
Look
Is
at
Scotty. This guy had the
number one player in the world.
Yes, and he is putting with the saw claw. I thought it was a joke.
I thought it was too.
I
saw
thought it was
online.
AI. Somebody said, make Scottie Scheffler on the putting green with a saw claw,
Yeah.
and that came up.
Like,
Is that what it's called though? Saw claw? Or is that
Yeah,
just
it's
like
called the saw. Like Marco Mira and these guys came up with this stuff when they started getting the Jimmy hands, and they had to hold the putter a different way.
yeah, it's
It's
a
that
wild
grip there
man.
is called the saw grip from Marco Mira.
Yeah.
Wow,
It's
the
a
saw
wild grip. For a guy on a Muni, it's a wild grip. That's the number one player in the world. Tee to green, he is maybe better than anyone we've ever
Dude,
seen.
every time I've been in a match with a guy that putts with some kind of saw or anything like that, I'm like, he ain't getting anything under 3 feet. Like he's
No.
putting everything.
Well, even like to lag putt with that is absurd.
I don't think he does. I think
I
it's
guess
like
he
10
can.
feet and in. But maybe he's just saying, if I can get better, like 10 feet and in and putt with the saw,
Yeah,
maybe I'm Tiger Woods, which he already is close to.
I guess. I mean, you're right. That's always been the issue, right? If you can putt, this guy is going to be unbeatable.
Yeah.
Because tee to green, there's nothing like him. There's no one that's even close.
Yeah.
He stuffs like that still shot we just saw. That was probably a 5-iron he hit to 6 feet, and he gets the claw grip out. It's a wild scene.
It's crazy.
Yeah, look at this guy. Number one player in the world. That must make Tiger look at him and say, what are you doing? Like, Tiger used the exact same putter for like 20 years.
I don't think Tiger ever plays golf if he has to use a grip like that. Long putter, anything other
No.
than that putter
He's
has.
got the Scotty Cameron blade, and that's what he's using, and that's it.
And standard, like, he switched it up a couple times, but if somebody said to him, I think you should go to the claw, he goes right to Fort Lauderdale and gets on his yacht. He's not playing.
You'll never see him again.
No.
He will disappear. Andy
What did-
Dufresne style.
What did Tiger like? Tiger, we talked about it briefly. Like is he saying like I'm done, or is he just still trying to leave the door open?
He's leaving the door open, Noodles. I think he'll try to play again, but I don't know how competitive it's going to be. You know, he said it. He's like, I'm not sharp enough. I can't play with these guys. He's worried he's going to go out there and shoot 85 or something, and that's a problem too. Is you're concerned with whether or not you can actually play.
Right.
But anyway, Jim Nill coming up in about 20 minutes. We have some J.J. Redick audio, too, that we got to get to. The Lakers are a mess. They got pumped again last night. They have lost, I believe, 6 in a row, and they're getting destroyed. Yeah. And J.J. Redick has no idea what he's doing, and he has no idea how to get out from underneath this. And we'll play the clip and how awkward it's going to get.
That's what you get. I think they deserve it for hiring that guy. Sorry.
Yeah, well, you know who it reminded me of is the Gerard Mayo clip from a couple weeks ago, the Patriots coach, where he's like, once they get past the line, there's nothing I can do. Like, that's just an inexperienced former player, never been a head coach, got the job when he wasn't ready type comment. Mayo said it, and now Redick's saying it, and I think it's going to spiral out of control.
It's LeBron's guy, too,
and
isn't it?
That's the thing. LeBron's podcast host. LeBron can't throw him under the bus. Everyone knows LeBron's the reason he's there. Yeah. The only reason he got hired is because of LeBron James. Everyone knows that.
That's another problem, don't you think? And there's people that love LeBron James to death, and you're like, all you're thinking about is this guy's got his son in the organization. He's now, he put the coach there. And now when the wheels are starting to fall off him, I mean, he's struggling a little bit.
He is not
talking
playing
about
well.
Age, right?
He is looking like a 40-year-old.
Right. And it's hard because he's such a, he's arguably one of the greatest of all time.
Well, yeah, he's not arguably. He is.
Well, yeah, sorry. He
is absolutely one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, one of the greatest. I'm saying, I should say arguably the greatest of all time. And you never want to go out that way. And now it seems like he's got his fingers in everything, and I don't know, it's a bad look.
It's not good. I mean, again, Aaron Rodgers, he's talking now, he's kind of begging the Jets to keep him around. Like, it's getting desperate with a lot of these legends of the game. So we'll get to that audio a little bit later on as well. Maybe have Luke chime in on that at 5:30. Jim Nill coming up. Continue to touch on the Leaf game last night. Lots of games in the NHL, NFL, NBA tonight as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Jim Nill coming up, GM of the Stars, also a part of Team Canada's management team for the Four Nations Face-Off. So we're going to do a number of things with Jim. Luke Wilson coming up as well in 45. Owen Wilson on the clock tonight. Going into Week 14, Hazenbro up 3. Massive turn of events tonight. Lions -3.5. At home against the Packers on FanDuel. So the pick will be in. We'll get into what Aaron Rodgers had to say about his future in New York, the suspended scenario, the player down in Houston that got suspended, and what he had to, say on social media and what he posted yesterday that caused a bit of a stir. Tell you more about that. We'll get to it with Luke in about 45. But Thursdays, I've been putting a list together. It changes. Last week we did a list on the worst trades in Leaf history, and that one took about 25 minutes to get through, and it's very cathartic. And I think everyone we were thankful, right? We were thankful.
But it's also fascinating, man. I find it fascinating. Like, it gets your juices flowing. I don't know why. It's just because I don't know. Maybe because it's so crazy.
Well, and I did promise I will do either the 5 best trades in Leaf history or 5 best Leaf signings. That's coming too. I will get to that. But this week, a lot of our attention has been directed towards international hockey. I think a lot of people are excited that it's finally back. It feels like it's been a decade. I know we had the World Cup in 2016, and that was a decently sized and attended tournament, but it felt a little bit corny at times. And I'm not sure the Four Nations face-off is going to pop necessarily, but we're getting closer to the real stuff. At the Olympic Games next year, it will be back to form, right? It'll be best on best. And the Four Nations face-off roster was released yesterday, so we know who's on Canada. We know who made it. And there's going to be turnover between now and next year. And I went through the list last night, and I went through it again today. Guys like Carter Verhaeghe, guys like Wyatt Johnston. I think Macklin Celebrini's still too young, and I think he'll be too young next year. But if he keeps playing like this and he's a rock star next year, they'll think about him.
Yeah.
Noah Dobson, Lafreniere. Alex Lafreniere was a guy that a lot of people were buzzing about, could make that team. These are all guys that didn't make my list. These are guys on the outside of the list. So I'm going to give a quick honorable mention. Logan Thompson, Stuart Skinner, I'm going to throw them in because there will be goalie turnover.
Yeah.
It will not be Binnington, Hill, Montembeault at the Olympic Games. I'd be willing to guarantee that. I just couldn't tell which one I thought was going to be ahead of the other, so I kept them honorable mentions on the outside. But I think Logan Thompson, Stuart Skinner could definitely be on that team next year. Maybe both of them, depending on how they play the rest of the year into the playoffs and next year.
Yeah.
But, okay, you guys ready for this?
Yeah.
Starting at number 5. Number 5 on my list of snubs or players that didn't make the Four Nations face-off that I still think could make the Olympic team, Zach Hyman I have at 5. Now, my initial thought was this was his opportunity. Once he missed it, you missed it, and it's gone. But then I started thinking there's a couple of different ways he can get himself back in the mix. Let's say McDavid just doesn't find the right line mates at this tournament. Seems crazy, but if he gets there and they're moving guys around on his wing and it just never feels right, I think they'll say, okay, we want a guy who is going to make him pop or someone that he's comfortable with, and that is Zach Hyman. And Hyman played himself off it this year based on his own play, based on injuries. But if he's great down the stretch and he has a great start with McDavid next year, like they come out of the gate like rocket fuel to start next year, I think he can get back in the mix.
What about something as simple as if he's lights out until leading up to the tournament?
Exactly.
Right.
Like if he goes crazy and starts scoring, wouldn't you think somebody would be like, man, it'd be kind of cool if that guy was on the team?
Yeah, for sure. And again, this is about the Olympics next year. But if Hyman, he could still get on the Four Nations face-off. That's possible. But if he has a great playoff, great next year, and again, he fits well with McDavid, who's the most important piece, then he can still play his way back into it next year.
Yeah, 100%. There's a case on many different levels for him. Like there's an opportunity to window. He's got to play himself into it, though. That's really what it is.
For sure he does. Number 4, this might surprise you guys a little bit. I have Drew Doughty at number 4. Drew Doughty. Now, he'll be 35, and he's coming off a major, major injury. And if he looks 35 coming off the injury and he's slow, I don't think they'll take him. But if you remember in 2010, Pronger was still there, Niedermeyer was still there. Doughty is a guy that is familiar with Olympic play. He's been great at the Olympic Games. If he can recover and play like he did last year, I think they'd have him on this team. I think they'd be very comfortable with Drew Doughty, even at 35, playing a ton of minutes, playing with any partner, playing in almost every situation if need be. Even if he's the 7th defenseman, a veteran guy, I think Drew Doughty could still be in the mix next year.
All day long. I don't think you could argue having that guy in any capacity, even if he's like in a depth position like Kaber was in the 7th D.
Right. Exactly. Just because of who he is. If he's healthy and feeling good, he can help you.
And he's a gamer.
Yes.
Like that's the guy. Like you don't have to look at him and go, "Geez, he's chiseled. He's this." Like he comes to play and he knows how to play. You're right. Age, the legs might fall off. All of that. That'll determine it. But the guy's a gamer.
Yes, he is. Number 3, I have Connor Bedard. Now, again, this year it hasn't gone well for him. I don't know if he ever really had a chance to make this team. I think they probably would have thought about it. I think if he was great to start the season, they would have
If he had
possibly
15
thought
goals,
of it.
he'd be on the team, I think.
I think so. I think Ty would have gone to Bedard as a 13th forward, and I still think that can apply next year. He's got to get going this year. They're not going to be a playoff team, obviously. Next year he's going to need some help, but if he comes out of the gate next year flying and he looks like the Bedard that we think he can be, I think they'll be very compelled by that. I think the idea of bringing a kid who will be into his 3rd year, who can score, maybe he's your 13th forward, maybe he's a guy you insert if you have offensive issues, if you run.
But what's the connection to Bedard and the Blackhawks? Like, does he have a chance of come out flying next year if the Blackhawks are garbage again?
I'm not sure. That's a good question.
I'm not even, man.
It's a good question, and that's a legitimate pushback that he needs some help. Like, he's going to need some help. But if you're an elite, like, generational superstar, you can rise above, poor roster development or construction. Right, you still got to look really good even in bad moments. I think Bedard can do that. Number 2, I have Nick Suzuki of the Montreal Canadiens. Now, again, he's got to have a good stretch run. I think he's got to go to the Worlds at the end of the year. Got to go play for Canada. I think he's got to be at the World Championships.
He said no thanks, and it hurt him. There's no question it hurt him.
He's got to go. You've got to go, and you got to play, and you got to commit to the program. But I don't need to tell you guys about the caliber of player, and he can basically do. I don't think him on any line, you're not going to worry about Nick Suzuki.
No.
Center, wing, up and down the lineup. He's a really smart player.
He's got to play well, and he's got to push somebody off that roster, too.
Yeah,
right?
no, exactly.
Like, that's the thing,
For sure. But would you be shocked if he took Seth Jarvis's spot next year? I wouldn't.
No.
Travis Konechny's spot, Sorelli's spot, I wouldn't be shocked by that.
Well, that's going to be the luxury of that coach in the same tournaments. He can say, you know what, that guy didn't do a whole lot for me.
Exactly.
I can make it.
And Suzuki's in his division, too. Sees him a lot. Him a lot in Tampa. At number 1, I have Evan Bouchard. At number 1, who, you look at the blemishes in his game. They can be shocking when he mails in a back check or throws a pizza.
Exhibit A was in Toronto the other night.
It can be pretty wild to see. Yet overall, his game, he's a really good player. And the way he was humming last year and into the playoffs, and offensively, he's a stud. His numbers actually aren't that bad. You look at the underlying numbers. He's a young defenseman. I think he's on that team next year. I think this is a message. Clean it up, smarten up. But I got Bouchard at number 1. Yeah, so there it is.
I think it's a good list.
There's your 5-pack.
Your honorable mentions, too. You could probably go deep on. You could go deep on that, too.
Loaded, man. I could see Wyatt Johnston on that team next year. I could see Lafreniere. I could Dobson, if he didn't make this one, I don't know if he's really in the fold next year.
Yeah.
Owen Power's young, but he's big, 6'6", 230.
And he's a nice player. I think he just needs some time.
Yes.
I think grow into his body, but he's a pretty good player.
He's got a chance, and there will be goaltending turnover. There will be at least 1, if not 2, that will turn over.
Yeah.
So there you go. Hayesy be listing on
another
Thursday.
Successful list.
Very successful.
I love it. All right, Jim, though, coming up. More on the Leaf win last night, where the Leafs go from here. They got Washington in town tomorrow. They're at Pittsburgh on Saturday. We'll start looking ahead to that. Raptors in action. Shea Gilgeous in town tonight. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Luke coming up on the Thursday nighter as well, and Owen Wilson on the clock. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.